Oh, old school RPGs, how I miss you. It's been a while since I've been able to slash my sword 10 feet away and still hit enemies. I can finally walk into strangers' houses and steal their potions. Final Fantasy III takes me back to that time, a time when the plot consisted of repeating the words Warriors of Light, and your objective is to destroy evil. Is the story good? No, not really. But did you really have high expectations for a game that came out about 20 years ago? The characters are one-dimensional, the dialogue is oftentimes vague and flat, and I had no idea what my purpose was through half the game. But I'm here to tell you, I really enjoyed this game. Final Fantasy III tells a story. It's a story about how we got to Final Fantasy IV. It was nice to see how each Final Fantasy has evolved, and how things were improved upon each game. You'll notice mechanics from the original Final Fantasy, such as the spell system. You have different levels of spells, you purchase spells, not learn them, and your magic points is based off of how many points you have for your spell level. The concept of Warriors of Light and crystals is also very heavily emphasized. I also expected to run into a battle every 3 steps, but that wasn't really the case here. The game is very liberal in its use of random battles. I oftentimes could go through an entire dungeon and only run into maybe 4 or 5 battles. And let's not forget the job system. After about the first hour, you're able to change jobs from the freelancer to knight, thief, white mage, monk, red mage, and black mage. Then, every 3 to 4 hours, you open up another group of jobs, to make a total of about 23 jobs throughout the game. Now, the jobs aren't as intricate as later games, and they usually just provide 1 or 2 options, such as an attack option and then an ability option. If you're a knight, you can either attack or lower your defenses to have a stronger attack. If you're a dragoon, you can attack or you can just jump in the air. It would have been a little nice to have further customizations, but for a game that was released so long ago, there's still a lot of customizations here. And of course, not all jobs are created equal, only about half of them are relevant at the end of the game. Also, by the time you get your last group of jobs, it's already pretty late in the game and it's sort of an inconvenience to invest in any new jobs at that point. A black belt is superior to a monk, but by the time I'm able to be a black belt, I'm already a level 99 monk, and to me it just wasn't really worth it. One of the things I think this game does better than some of the other Final Fantasies is that its use of status-inducing spells. If you're paralyzed during battle, that can really affect your success. I also thought it was neat how you had to turn yourself into a midget or a frog to enter some new areas. It's not a revolutionary concept, but for a game that's so old, I was still pretty impressed. And did I mention that this game is hard? You can't buy Phoenix Downs to revive your characters. If you're out, you're out. Potions are very expensive, and money is pretty hard to come by. Sometimes your best bet is to leave a dungeon, go all the way back to town, sleep at the inn, and start all over. Then when you finally feel good enough to go to a boss, guess what? There are no save points in any of the dungeons. If you die, you have to start back at the entrance. Thankfully, most dungeons are pretty short, and this isn't a huge problem, except for the last couple of places in the game, which are pretty long. And especially in the last place, when you have to fight multiple bosses in a row, and then when you finally get to the last boss and he kills you, you have to start all over again and you just want to throw a shoe at the wall. You're really on your toes throughout the game, which places more value on your job combination. A successful job combination can lead to a better experience, and that uniqueness really improves the gameplay. One thing I did dislike about this game was the lack of direction. I got confused on where I was supposed to go a lot. The dialogue was pretty vague to me. Sometimes it would mention a town to go to, but when you don't know where anything is, you don't know where to go. And you can travel the world quite early, so you might find yourself stopping continent to continent, going to each town and talking to everybody to give you an idea about where to go. This happened to me pretty frequently, and I probably spent about an hour wandering the world asking myself, what the hell am I supposed to do? And this sort of leads me where I list a bunch of sort of smaller things that bugged me. A better world map would have been nice. Loading times seemed to be a little bit above average. I hated that each town had their own job-specific items. It would be nice if you could shop at one shop and get all of your relevant equipment for every job. It would have been nice to have better job explanations on the interface. I usually had to change my job and mess with it a little bit to see what it can do. Some of the side quests at the end are pointless. You can go through a large dungeon to get a big summon spell, but then you also have the option to buy that summon spell in the last tower of the game. Sometimes you would have to switch jobs to get through a dungeon or beat a certain battle. One specific boss, I would say you need at least 2 dragoons, which makes you mess with your team that you've become comfortable with, and switching jobs also penalizes your character with lower stats. I'm also not a huge fan of the auto battle feature. When you have it on auto battle, the game speeds up and the animations are quicker, which leads to shorter battle times. Now, it is very convenient, but the reason this feature has always sort of bugged me is that I feel like it's not acknowledging the root problem. Now this feature is implemented because developers know that battles can get boring and sometimes you encounter too much of them. I think there are fixes to these problems that don't require a mechanic that completely alters the gameplay. If the battles are too slow moving, make the animations speed up. If there are too many battles, lower the encounter rate. Adding an auto battle feature sort of just ignores that root issue. The game is hard enough that it's not too convenient to use it, but it's still a feature that has always bugged me game to game. Lastly, I feel like gaining a job or regular level every single battle was a bit too much. It may only take 1 or 2 seconds to get through the screen that says this character has gained a job level, but when it's every single battle 1 or more times, the wasted time starts to accumulate. I wish that there was either less job levels or maybe a little quicker on-screen message. And that's my nitpicking for this review. Ultimately, the game was a lot of fun and I'm glad I played it. It really gave me insight on what brought Final Fantasy IV about. It offered a well-rounded customization, fun gameplay, and a very nice challenge. Had there been a little more direction, a better story, and more convenient options like better weapon shops, world map, and job explanations, the game would be pretty damn perfect. But it's still a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it if you're a fan of the genre. I give the game a B.